सिंह जी हैं। पूनम सिंह जी पटना विश्वविद्यालय के HOD रह चुके हैं और अभी पटना में ही अवस्थित हैं। और प्रोफेसर RC सिन्हा जो कुछ ही क्षणों में संभवतः जुड़ सकेंगे, जो कि आज के हमारे कार्यक्रम के अध्यक्ष हैं। यूजुअली सामान्यतया वह हमारे इन कार्यक्रमों में अध्यक्ष रहा करते हैं, जो कि अभी नेशनल फेलो हैं शिमला में, IIES शिमला से, और फॉर्मर ICPR के अध्यक्ष रह चुके हैं। हमारे बीच प्रोफेसर SNP सिंह भी जुड़ेंगे, किंतु उनकी पत्नी जो हिंदी विभाग की अध्यक्ष रही हैं बिहार विश्वविद्यालय से, वह भी जुड़ी हुई हैं। उनके प्रति भी मैं अपनी कृतज्ञता प्रकट करता हूँ। आप लोगों के द्वारा इस कार्यक्रम को आगे बढ़ाना है। मैं प्रोफेसर पूनम सिंह फॉर्मर HOD फिलोसफी से रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ कि वह आज के इस कार्यक्रम को आगे बढ़ाएं।
धन्यवाद महाराज जी। आज की इस आभासीय गोष्ठी या सभा के जनक परम श्रद्धेय स्वामी भावात्मानंद जी महाराज, रामकृष्ण मिशन सेवाश्रम मुजफ्फरपुर सभाध्यक्ष, जो अभी हमारे बीच नहीं पधारे हैं, फिर भी इन एडवांस परम आदरणीय प्रोफेसर रमेश चंद्र सिन्हा सर, नेशनल फेलो IIAS शिमला और फॉर्मर चेयरमैन रह चुके ICPR न्यू दिल्ली के, स्वागतकर्ता के रूप में प्रोफेसर SNP सिंह का नाम मैंने देखा है, इसलिए उनको भी उनके एब्सेंस में ही मैं उनकी पत्नी के साथ स्वागत करती हूँ। और आज के विद्वान वक्ता प्रोफेसर सुधीर सिंह जी, जो एक सम्मानित यूनिवर्सिटी विश्वविद्यालय यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ दिल्ली डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ पॉलिटिकल साइंस से आए हुए हैं। आश्रम के सभी सम्मानित और आदरणीय सदस्यगण एवं कार्यक्रम से जुड़े हुए हमारे सभी मित्रगण, मैं सभी का तहे दिल से स्वागत करती हूँ, अभिनंदन करती हूँ और नमन करती हूँ। दोस्तों, जीवन के अप्रत्याशित झंझावातों से गुजरते हुए मैं शायद अपने को भूल गई थी, लेकिन मैं धन्यवाद करती हूँ स्वामी जी का और आप सबका कि आपने मुझे अपना अस्तित्व भी याद दिलाया है। मैं इसके लिए बहुत आभारी हूँ, आभार प्रकट करती हूँ। आज सभी लोग जुड़े हुए हैं हमसे और हम लोग चर्चा करने के लिए यहाँ एकत्रित हुए हैं। विषय हमारा है भारतीय राष्ट्रीयता और स्वामी विवेकानंद। तो कुछ बातें, चंद लाइनें मैं इसके विषय में कहना चाहूंगी कि क्यों आज हमें इसकी जरूरत पड़ी कि हम उस विषय को चर्चा में लाएं। आगे तो आपको हमारे विद्वान वक्ता बताएंगे ही, लेकिन जो मैं समझती हूँ वो आपके सामने रख रही हूँ कि स्वामी विवेकानंद एक ऐसा व्यक्तित्व है जो कभी भूला नहीं जा सकता है, और ही लाइन में उनका सारा व्यक्तित्व आ जाता है। Arise, awake and achieve the goal which is before you. उठो, जागो, उठो और उस उद्देश्य को प्राप्त करो जो तुम्हारा गोल है, जो तुम्हारा लक्ष्य है। अब ये छोटी सी बात है, आप कहेंगे कि इसको हम राष्ट्रीयता से कैसे जोड़ लें। राष्ट्रीयता से जोड़ लें हम इसलिए कि ये उस समय की बात है जब विवेकानंद जी का आविर्भाव हुआ था 19वीं शताब्दी के प्रारंभ में। तो नहीं, प्रारंभ में नहीं, वो लास्ट डिकेड में। तो और बहुत कम दिनों में उनकी मृत्यु भी हो गई, केवल 39 इयर्स के वो थे। लेकिन इसी कम अवधि में उन्होंने बहुत सारा काम किया, और इसलिए किया कि प्रारंभ में उनकी बुद्धि जरूर विलक्षण थी, लेकिन झुकाव को इस तरह का नहीं था। लेकिन ये श्रेय जाता है उनके गुरु रामकृष्ण परमहंस जी। और हम एक तरह से कह सकते हैं कि रामकृष्ण परमहंस विचार थे और उसकी अभिव्यक्ति विवेकानंद की थे। और इसी तालमेल के साथ राष्ट्रीयता के लिए उन्होंने बहुत सारे ऐसे काम किए जो उस समय में लगता था कि ये राष्ट्र तो कभी उदित हो ही नहीं सकता है। जो अवस्था थी, दयनीय अवस्था थी भारत की। हम जानते हैं कि राष्ट्र का मतलब होता है एक निश्चित भूभाग, उसके रहवासी, उसमें रहने वाले, उनकी संस्कृति, उनकी सभ्यता और उनकी वर्तमान अतीत की स्थिति, वर्तमान की स्थिति और भविष्य क्या होगा, ये इस बारे में। लेकिन उनमें जो वो राष्ट्रीयता होती है वह एक भावना है, एक विचार है, और उस विचार को पुष्पित पल्लवित करना ये एक विचारक का काम होता है। तो विवेकानंद जी केवल विचारक ही नहीं थे, वे समाज सुधारक भी थे, बहुत कुछ थे। एक समाज वैज्ञानिक भी थे, एक धार्मिक व्यक्तित्व भी था उनका, बहुत कुछ थे। इतना संभव नहीं होगा, समय कम है और मैं चाहती हूँ कि ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा समय सुधीर जी लें। तो मैं इतना ही कहना चाहूँगी कि आधुनिक भारत जो आज का हमारा है, जिसे हम राष्ट्र कहते हैं, और वह राष्ट्र जिसका गौरव आज हमें है, जिसके लिए हम जब खड़े होते हैं और जन गण मन वो गीत गूंजता है, तो कितना बड़ा उत्साह और कितना बड़ा दिल हमारा होता है, ये हम सभी जानते हैं। और वही एक चिन्ह है कि हम किस तरह के भारत में रह रहे हैं और किस तरह की हमारी राष्ट्रीयता की ये भावना है। हम जहाँ भी जाते हैं, खेल में जाएं, किसी सभा में जाएं, विश्व में जहाँ भी कोई कुछ भारत से संबंधित होता है तो हम लोग इस गीत को गाते हैं। लेकिन केवल गाते ही नहीं, यह एक भावना होती है जो हमें आगे की ओर बढ़ाती है। आगे मतलब राष्ट्र की उन्नति की ओर। तो अब आप कहेंगे कि विवेकानंद इसमें कहाँ आते हैं? तो स्वामी विवेकानंद जी का जब प्रादुर्भाव हुआ, जब वो आए भारत के राष्ट्रीयता के पटल पर, तो उस समय भारत की अवस्था दीनहीन अवस्था थी। बहुत ज़्यादा कोई भारत को बहुत आदर भाव नहीं मिलता था। और उन्होंने जो शुरुआत की, आप सब जानते हैं, 1893 में शिकागो धर्म सभा में जो उन्होंने भाइयों और बहनों का करके संबोधित किया, ये पहला बीज था, पहला खंभा था जिससे कि राष्ट्रीयता का सपोर्ट हो। उन्होंने बहुत कुछ किया, बहुत सारी बातें की। भारतीय दर्शन को वो भारत के छोटे दायरे से निकालकर वो ले गए बाहर विश्व की ओर। विश्व के मंच पर उन्होंने दिखाया कि भारतीय आध्यात्मिकता क्या है, भारत क्या चीज है, भारत का दर्शन क्या है, भारत का नीति शास्त्र क्या है। ये सारी बातें उन्होंने आगे सामने रखी, बहुत छोटे छोटे भाषणों में, उदाहरणों में। तो ये उनका एक प्रयास था अपने राष्ट्र को गौरवान्वित करने का। दूसरा, वो भारत, आधुनिक भारत जो आज का है, उस समय वो उस राष्ट्र का पुनर्निर्माण करना चाहते थे। और उस निर्माण के क्रम में उन्होंने बहुत सारी बातें की जो आप सुनेंगे अभी हमारे विद्वान प्रोफेसर सुधीर सर से। महिलाओं की भूमिका को उन्होंने सामने रखा। युवाओं का सबसे बड़ा जो उनका योगदान रहा युवाओं के साथ मिलकर, वह था कि उन्होंने उन संभावनाओं और ऊर्जा को पहचाना जो युवा शक्ति में है। और उनकी यह भावना थी कि युवा शक्ति ही ऐसी ऊर्जा है का संचरण रखती है जिससे कि देश को इस दीनहीन अवस्था से आगे लाया जा सकता है। उस ऊर्जा को जब हम यूटिलाइज करेंगे, जब हम उपयोग करेंगे। इसके अलावा जातिवाद जो उस समय काफी गहरी जड़ें रखता था, जातिवाद और ये अस्पृश्यता की भावना, छुआछूत का भाव, पुरोहितों का जो वर्चस्व था और जो एक तरह से आतंक था, उस आतंक को कम करना। ऐसे तो धर्म के द्वारा धर्म क्या है ये बताना। धर्म आडंबर नहीं है, धर्म जो है वह मनुष्य का नैतिक धर्म है। दिखावे में कोई धर्म नहीं होता है, पूजा पाठ घंटी बजाइए उससे कुछ नहीं होता है। और इन सब के अलावा दो बातें जो मेरे जहन में है वो ये है कि शिक्षा व्यवस्था में परिवर्तन, शिक्षा की परिभाषा को बदलना और सैद्धांतिक शिक्षा के बजाय व्यवहारिक शिक्षा पर जोर देना, ये विवेकानंद का एक बहुत बड़ा ध्येय था, उद्देश्य था। इसके अलावा मनुष्य के सर्वांगीण विकास की बात उन्होंने कही कि एक पक्षीय विकास नहीं होना चाहिए, मनुष्य के व्यक्तित्व का सर्वपक्षीय होना चाहिए, उसकी जो जो विशेषताएं हैं उसको आगे बढ़ाना चाहिए। तो इस हिसाब से मैं यही कहना चाहूंगी कि आज का जो विषय है हमारा वो बहुत समीचीन है, क्योंकि किसी भी राष्ट्र की अवस्था में उतार चढ़ाव आते रहते हैं। कभी यह बहुत उन्नति करता है, भारत ही एक समय में बहुत उन्नतिशील देश रहा और एक समय उसकी अवनति भी हुई, तो ये दोनों चीजें साथ साथ चलती हैं। हो सकता है कि हम आज जिस अवस्था में हैं विवेकानंद जी के बातों को, उनके पॉइंट्स को फॉलो करके हम और आगे जा सकते हैं। तो इसलिए जरूरी है कि आज हम इस पर चर्चा करें। और ये बहुत अच्छी बात है कि हमारे सुधीर सिंह सर भी पधारे हुए हैं। सर आपका पुनः बहुत अभिनंदन करती हूँ, बहुत नमन करती हूँ और आपसे आग्रह करती हूँ कि आप सम्मानित वक्ता हमारे बीच में आए और अपने विचारों को प्रकट करें। धन्यवाद।
Namaskar Swamiji and friends. The theme which has been chosen today is Swami Vivekananda and Indian nationalism. As Professor Poonam Singh has already given many characteristics of Swamiji, but I will be confined about his views about nationalism only. At the outset, I am very grateful to the Ramakrishna Mission Muzaffarpur to give me this august opportunity to put my views about Indian nationalism in reference to Swami Vivekananda ji. I welcome my friends from Kerala, Professor Sabu Thomas, from Bengal, Professor Devasis Chakravarti, from Lucknow, Professor Ritu Sudan Singh, from Garhwal, Uttarakhand, Professor Rahul Kumar Singh, and many others. Friends, there are many components of nationalism. When we talk about nationalism, there are many facets of nationalism. There is a stream of historians in this country and abroad who says that there was no nationalism in India ever, and Britishers have given the notion of nationalism. May I draw your kind attention that nationalism is a notion. It is not a kind of a demarcated line which anybody can identify. Nationalism is a notion. And when notion is nourished by the generations to generations, it became an ideology which has been reflected in many great writers' writing. Take the example of Subramanian Bharati from Tamil background. He wrote about it. Ramdhari Singh Dinkar wrote about it in Hindi. Rasmi Rathi, his epic book, and which reflects the kind of deliberation of nationalism. And if you will go by little humanistic version of nationalism, then you must read Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. In his diverse writing, Tagore has outlined the humanistic approach of nationalism. Tagore is very clear that West has a materialistic attitude, And India has a societal attitude. You can, in philosophy, you can say that Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam remains a cradle of Indian civilizational values for, I mean, since millennia. And again, there is a debate that how many centuries and decades and millennia Indian civilization existed, but there is a consensus that more than 6-7 millennia Indian civilization is existed. So the question and very candid response to the people who raised the finger that there was no nationalism in India, they must know without nationalism a civilization cannot grow. Indian civilization grown because of the nationalism. It was very much there. Kautilya has codified those things in Arthashastra, which has been written almost 2300 years from today, before. And Greece, which was one of the important civilization at that point of time during Kautilya, they sent their ambassador into Maurya court, and one of their daughters were married to one of the Maurya kings. Those are the little evidences here and there one can gather. Samuel P. Huntington is a seminal scholar of social science in recent history. He wrote in his seminal book Clash of Civilization and the Remaking of the Global Order that in 1750 India had 25% of the global GDP. 70-50. And 70-50 is a time, Swamiji, when India was plundered for almost 500 years by this or that group of invaders. Even though India was possessing 1/4 of the global GDP. You know. And if you will read Amartya Sen book, two books are relevant here, Argumentative Indian and Idea of Justice. In both books, Amartya Sen has taken many citations from our religious text, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Upanishad, Shruti, Vedas. And Amartya Sen mentions then when Homer wrote Iliad and Odyssey, which West consider that it is one of the most important contribution into the annals of history, thousands of years before Homer, Amartya Sen mentioned, Mahabharata was composed. And if you club Iliad and Odyssey's verses together, 7 round more verses are incorporated when Mahabharata was composed. You know. So these are earliest, things which I am citing to show that, to vindicate that nationalism was very much in India since ages, since millennia. Of course, it was weakened due to different historical happenings time to time. But when you come to Swami Vivekananda and his contribution on Indian nationalism, I will begin with that Swami Vivekananda was the leader, the harbinger of Indian Renaissance, which reinvented, which revisited the contours of nationalism. And in Swami Vivekananda, two more people are more relevant here, two which need mentioning, that is Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Mahatma Gandhi. So that stream strengthened the very roots of Indian nationalism. But Swami Vivekananda is supermost out of these three mentioned names because of certain inherent philosophical moorings. I believe personally, it is one of my research observation that Swami Vivekananda was a divine intervention after Sankara in 7th century to correct the system. And you will find it through his works, through his contribution within, as Poonam Singh has already mentioned, within the stipulated 39 years of his physical presence on this planet. Swamiji contributed immensely in all the directions, including strengthening the process of nationalism. Just imagine, Swamiji spent many years in the West, landed in Colombo Port, that point of time no airport in this part of the world, and then started journey from Rameswaram to that point of time Calcutta, and addressed more than 300 small and big gathering of the people, you can say rallies in today's context. And Ramakrishna Mission has published it as a Swamiji collection of his speeches, Colombo to Alamora. When I visited Kolkata recently, few months before, one of the Swami in the ashram gave me it, and I have gone through that entire book, English version. A very small book of 200 plus pages, but it reflects the kind of churning which was prevailing in the mind of Swami Vivekananda. As I have said, that three peoples are important into the overall making of the narrative of nationalism. So Swamiji was very much insisting on the spirituality part of India. His conclusions about the indestructibility of the Indian soul and the invincibility of Indian spirituality were based on his premise that whereas other great civilizations like Egyptian, Greek and Roman came and disappeared, the Indian civilization survives. And a civilization that has cheated times and disaster time and again must embody a historic purpose in its very survival. Swamiji stated, the Indian nation cannot be killed. Deathless it stands and will stand so long as the spirit that remains as the background. So long as the people do not give up their spirituality, and the Hindu, the common down to earth Hindu, cannot give up his spirituality, for he has been the blessed child of God always. Such an attitude was one of the faith of a mystical faith that did not need elaborate and objective evidence to support. We have seen and observed that Swami Vivekananda turned away from mere rationalism and skepticism under the influence of Sri Ramakrishna Paramhans, and that his mind became deeply imbued with mysticism. It was his mysticism that expressed itself repeatedly in his prognostication of the future of India. It was also this mysticism which became the basis of his faith in the Indian civilization and invincibility of Indian spirituality. In this respect, Swami Vivekananda's thought found substance in the common roots of Hindu nationalism. Indeed, philosophy plays a dominant role in the formation and development of spirituality in Hindu nationalism from Dayanand Saraswati to Mahatma Gandhi. Madhav Govind Ranade, the great patriot and social reformer, showed this mystical trend when he said, I profess implicit faith in two articles of my creed. This country of ours is the true land of promise. This race of ours is the chosen race. Gopal Krishna Gokhale, the moderate leader and one of the philosophers of Indian liberalism, also displayed this somewhat mystical trait when he wrote his creed and program on the 5th of February 1898. Gokhale remarked, by the grace of Sri Guru Dattatreya, I will endeavor humbly but firmly to acquire and achieve the following, among which he included such diverse subjects and activities as learning history, ancient and modern, French, psychology, membership of the Bombay Legislative Council and British Parliament also. Speaking in Allahabad on the 4th of February 1907, Gopal Krishna Gokhale once again expressed his mystical faith in the future of India when he said, a new consciousness of power is stirring within us, a new meaning of existence is breaking upon our mind, and altogether we seem to see the first faint streaks a new dawn, which the God's providence must in course of time grow into the perfect day. So it was the past glorious experience and the future promising, the present was depressing for Swami Vivekananda. The task was to reawaken the minds of men and give them enthusiasm, a source of energy for the work of national regeneration. For this work, nationalism was the prime condition. But on what was it to be best? Swami Vivekananda stated, I am no politician or political agitator. I care only for the spirit. When that is right, everything will be righted by itself. He asserted that he was a patriot and was compelled to say the things he was saying because he felt it was his duty to remind his fellow countrymen about the state of affairs in the motherland and its civilization. India, Swamiji felt, was a country full of diversities and conflicts. There were different religions, languages, sects, and regional variations, often at cross purpose with each other. There was the need to discover a common basis which would help the people transcend the barriers of language and regional societies and weld them into the nation inspired by a vigorous and creative nationalism. In Swami Vivekananda's opinion, such a basis could be found only in religion and spirituality, which meant the Hindu spiritual tradition. Swamiji said, the only common ground that we have is our sacred tradition, our religion. That is the only common ground, and upon that we shall have to build. Hence, the unity in religion, therefore, is absolutely necessary as the first condition of the future of India. Furthermore, religion, according to Swami Vivekananda, was the lines of least resistance. For he argued, work in any other line without first strengthening this would be disastrous. Therefore, the first plank in the making of future India, the first step that is to be heaven out of that rock of ages is this unification of religion. Swami Ji believed that his mission was to find the common basis of Hinduism and awaken the national consciousness to them. Swamiji was convinced that national union in India must be gathering up to its scattered spiritual forces. A nation in India must be union of those whose hearts beats to the same spiritual tune. This spiritual tune was compounded of the theological, metaphysical, and ethical elements developed by Hinduism through the ages. Swamiji opposed the movement of social reform if it tended to destroy faith in Hinduism, since if that faith was destroyed, everything was destroyed. Swamiji was not against borrowing ideas and techniques from other countries and civilizations, though he decried the imitation of the Western materialistic attitudes by the educated Indians of this day. The Hindu must not give up his religion, for it was a religion alone that could make him grow to full spiritual and national stature. Swamiji stated, "Our lifeblood is spirituality. If it flows clear, if it flows strong and pure, vigorous, everything is right. Political, social, any other material defects, even the poverty of the land, will be cured if that blood is pure." Swami Vivekananda recognized the importance of political work such as was done by the Indian National Congress, but regarded it a mistake if the awakening of the nation was seen only in political and social reform movement, for the awakening was acquired in religion. It was his awakening of religion that would provide nationalism with vitality and thought in it primate in life of every Hindu. He criticized the anti-Brahminic movement for it simply aimed at destroying the higher elements without helping the lower sections to the rise of the heights of the Brahmin. In his program of regeneration of India, he attached great importance to the revival of Sanskrit learning, which alone could hold the cultural identity of Hinduism intact. Swami Vivekananda also wanted that Sanskrit classics to be translated into provincial languages so that the knowledge of Hindu culture might spread in a revitalized form among the masses, and thus being about a awakening of the dormant Hindu mind. And finally, he wanted to organize a band of fiery missionaries trained in Sanskrit, Hindu religion, foreign languages, and comparative religion, and thus equipped to spread Hinduism anew among the masses of the people through preaching and acts of service. This plan of Swami Vivekananda was realized in practice with the foundation of Ramakrishna Mission, whose workers are functioning even today in parts of India, Southeast Asia, and of course in the entire world, including the West. Swamiji thus appears as the fulfillment of Hindu nationalism as it began to develop since 1875. He was also its philosopher and prophet, and as I have said, he was the harbinger of Indian renaissance of awakening. An awakening which was intended to revisit its roots, and Swamiji's influence continued to produce its own impact on the subsequent history of Indian nationalism. Vivekananda was no means a Hindu fanatic, but he was deeply convinced that nationalism in India could be effectively based and developed into the mass movement only if it required a religious content. I believe that Swami Vivekananda, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and Gandhi form parts of one continuous process. Many of Gandhi's ideas of Hinduism and spirituality come close to those of Swami Vivekananda. Like the Swami Vivekananda, Gandhi too believed that spirituality must pervade everybody's life, and Gandhi would not conceive of politics as diverse from religion, though for him this religion was not a particular creed but a universal religion of belief in an ordered moral government of the universe. For Gandhi, Swaraj was synonymous with Ramraj, which he interpreted as the kingdom of righteousness on earth. But whatever philosophical interpretation Gandhi might give in terms of like Ramraj, he could not divest them of the religious significance associated with them in the Hindu mind. Swami Vivekananda also profoundly influenced the mind of Subhash Chandra Bose, who was particularly struck by the Swami Vivekananda's exertion on the acquisition of moral and physical power. Vivekananda, Hinduism was tolerant and broad-minded, and he was as much an internationalist as he was a nationalist. And it is a rare breed of ideological position, which Tagore has also taken, and many among us termed Gurudev Tagore as more internationalist than a nationalist. Then Swami Vivekananda had a balanced approach between nationalism and internationalism. Swami Vivekananda was of the firm believer that nationalism must be strong first. If nationalism will be strong, if Hindu society, Sanatan system will be very strong, then it will be able to contribute positively for the larger good for the humanity. Swamiji did not turn his back completely on the West, but his emphasis on the acquisition of a Hinduness by the Hindu meant, as in the case of others, a rejection more or less complete of the West and its materialistic values. Swami Vivekananda attacked secularism and denounced the secularization of life initiated under the Western impact on Indian culture. He urged a return to what he called spirituality, which in effect meant Hinduism purged of all its superstitions and antiquated concept of social and economic relations. In this, he began as a symbol of his age, but went on to become its prophet, the prophet of re-emergence of Hinduism, which when fused with a sense of unity would grow into the force of Indian nationalism. As Swamiji has mentioned, and attacked nationalism, kind of Western influence, particularly on secularism, which after 80 years of our independence, secularism still remains a very divided interpretation. Because West has a different connotation about secularism. They have a different national narratives, civilizational narratives. But our whole civilizational narratives are based on religion, dharma. And we cannot diverge from that particular moralistic position in terms of religion is concerned. Religion has always guided the Indian ruling oligarchy since ages. But in the West, religion has always disturbed the ruling oligarchy in a negative way. Religion in the West has always tried to capture the power. But in India, religion, in Hinduism, religion has always a symbol of tyaga, sacrifice. Therefore, Gandhi was propelled with those ideas and acted accordingly. We cannot imagine right now that any politicians who was instrumental to get India independence, although others have also contributed, but Gandhi was a big contributor, an established leader of Indian freedom movement, but Gandhi refused to occupy any seat of power, be it prime minister or president or anything. Do you think that if Gandhi was desirous to occupy such high seat of power, anybody had the guts to oppose him? But Gandhi had not accepted those positions. Therefore, Gandhi has become very, very powerful morally. We have since 80 years more than 12 prime ministers. Many prime minister name people have forgotten. But Gandhi is still in our memory. And Gandhi remain an icon of India throughout the globe. If you have to identify two people who have represented India at the global stage as a cradle of liberal values, as a pioneer of humanistic views, then Gandhi, Vivekananda and Mahatma Gandhi. Either in the West or the East, you will find both two are leading harbingers of Indian civilizational values. And friends, there is no contest between nationalism and internationalism. There is often question that if a jingoist nationalism will grow, then internationalism will be affected. I hardly find any traction in this line of argument. According to me, if nationalism will be strong and our civilizational values are moral based one, then we will be betterly equipped to contribute into the internationalism. You know, when India today, after 80 years of independence, is better organized, a better economy, when we came into being as a country in 1947, we had 90% people below the poverty line. Today, it is hardly 15% people who are below the poverty line. We were only $20 billion economy right at 1947. Today, we have 5 trillion economy, fourth global economy. You know, literacy rate was 16%. Today,